All right. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you've taken some time. I would love you to express just a handful of your gratitudes and the things that you're feeling. Maybe some of the destinations that you plan on taking in your life. It could be as simple as just setting an appointment or learning a presentation or, securing a listing or putting a buyer in a contract, you name it. And so, hey, today I'm really excited about the opportunity to be able to interview Miriam Drury. I have really actually been impressed by the magnitude of production that has been increased in regards to her specifically. And I'm just going to look here at my participants, making sure there she is. All right.
I'm here.
Okay. There we go. All right. There you are. Miriam, how are you?
I'm doing really good.
Good. Great to see you. Great to have you here.
Thanks.
So, one of the things I've just been so impressed by is just watching really the elevation of your business and the significant increase in your business since you joined Everest. And I think you've been here about 2 years, if I'm about right.
Just since last January.
Oh, just last January. So just a little over a year.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Well, so with that, hey, let's just get started. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the business, and anything that you want to share with us.
Okay. Yeah. So your assistant was talking to me about it yesterday, about kind of how to share how I've gone into real estate. And it was fun to kind of journal what's happened in my life. So I actually was a teacher. My husband's a construction teacher and I taught a year. And then when we had kids, we thought, he teaches construction. We wanted to focus on his construction company. And so I didn't go back to teaching, and we actually started building houses. And I was thinking about it, and I sold my first house when I was 22, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Hey, you and I have that in common. That was the same time I had.
Yeah, and it was funny because I didn't realize how young I was, or that we had done that until I was writing it down. Then we went into doing flip houses about 18 years ago. We flipped houses, and we've been doing that for quite a while. And then I just kind of realized as we were doing it, a lot of the work that we did ended up on the sales end, and it gave me a whole appreciation for why it's important and the value that a realtor can bring to a product. And so then I decided I've got to get my real estate license. And so we did it in that fact, but then a lot of people knew that I was selling, and it just kind of snowballed. A lot of my clients is from my SOI. And so I was with Equity for about 9 years. I started out at Keller Williams.
Oh, wow.
What's up?
I said, oh, wow. I didn't realize you were there that long.
Yeah. And I started out at Keller Williams, and I went into their training and things like that, but I didn't connect with them. I felt like I'd been worked with a lot of different agents over the years, and I just felt like it was just a story. And that broker actually was a used car salesman. And so he was telling me a lot of things that I wanted to connect with the people. I wanted to try to, and so when I really connected with Kenzie, and so much with you, George, in all of speaking from the heart and realizing that you're helping someone through a major transition in their life. And that's what I wanted to do. And so Kenzie set me down, and I was like, no, I want to be at this flat rate brokerage, because that money, I was thinking it would be better. And she's like, well, as much as you're producing, you'd really be better to come over. And I thought, I love Kenzie. She's been through everything with me. And bumps, and I can call her whenever I need her. And she's just awesome. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a year. I'm going to see what happens. And even though I'm going to set nickel and dime aside and give it a year. And it was amazing. It's amazing the production that I was able to do through, there's a couple things that I think is really, really, really helped me through Century 21 Everest, especially. Well, the motivation from you, George, is a lot. It was great.
Thank you.
I remember our first morning ascent, I was like, Kenzie, he's so awesome. This is so awesome. And she's like, yeah, that's my dad. And I was like, oh, so George, you're Kenzie's dad, because Kenzie recruited me. And when I just so connect with speaking to people through the heart and realizing that's the part I love. And when I went to our summit in January, one of the agents from California, it really spoke to me. She said, I don't count how much money I make until the end of the year. They tell me. And that's how I treat my business. I help everybody every day, and I'm helping them through a really tough time. And that's what I've wanted to do. And so I saw the value, like as we were doing our construction business, as we do our flips, I realized how much value an agent can bring to them. And another key thing was when I started meeting with Rick and Ruby in the morning. That was huge because any new agent needs to do that. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
And it was great to like just sit down, and instead of you've worked so hard for that appointment, but just to sit down with them and role play it. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
I never had that opportunity. I can't believe I survived as long as I had with such little training. So I just really, that helped a lot. The other thing that was huge was Russ's Zap. So Kenzie brought Russ in when I was meeting with her, and how I can set my clients up, and how I can, so every single one of my clients I put on that home search. And that's huge. I can watch who is active, and you know what? It
Right.
works. Absolutely works.
Well, that's great. Well, so okay, so part of your journey, right? I mean, you're hitting some boy. You've said, and thank you for all the kind compliments to so many people on our leadership team, and as you know, I mean, everybody is here to help you and wants to be of service to you. So let me ask you this, or actually, let me say this first, and then let me ask you this question. I remember years ago, Miriam, when I was asked this question. This agent is still within our organization, and I remember them saying to me and coming up and asking this question. They said, hey, so I really want to figure out how to care for people. And I said, well, that's fantastic. And then they said, you actually really care, don't you? And I remember I was kind of puzzled, and I looked at him. I said, yeah, like I really do. And I said, don't you care about people? And I still remember the long pause that they said, and they go, no, not really. I'm not really that concerned about him. And he said, I really want to learn that principle. And what's been fun, in fairness to this individual, is watching this journey over this last decade with this individual, and watching them come around to recognizing that, man, you could be at the top of the mountain, and if you're at the top of the mountain all alone, that's a pretty lonely place to be. And so what I've appreciated by this individual, and just many other examples like you too, Miriam, and that the fact is that if you truly help enough people get what they want, you inevitably will get what you want. And not that I came up with that phrase, but man, when I was in my early 20s, when Zig Ziglar said that in a audio tape that I was listening to way back in the day, man, it just struck a chord with my soul to say, you know what, if I focus on helping people, giving back to people, serving people, doing good for people, helping people get to the next level, then some way, somehow I become invaluable. And the problem is that so much within this industry is that we focus so much upon ourselves. And people say, well, what do you mean? I mean, we'll focus on, well, what am I going to get paid? Or how long will this take me? Or, are they going to ask me to do things I don't want to do in regards to getting a home sold? And we get so consumed with ourselves that we then forget the joy that comes by the industry that we're in, which is to give to other people, and to give them, whether it be hope, whether it be to give them leadership, whether it be to give them access to information, knowledge, whatever it may be. So it's a really powerful place to be. So I love the fact of what you're saying, Miriam, and I couldn't agree with you more. And you're right. If people will change their focus, and here's the beauty, we have the chance to focus on whatever we choose to focus on. And that's the case. And then one Kenzie story though, Miriam. I was sitting around the dinner table, and she hadn't said this for a while, so I tell her, and I remember people will say, hey, I'm so excited to hear, maybe your dad speak at times. And then I came home, and I remember I was so excited that someone was going to pay me to speak to them. And I was sitting there at the dinner table and I said, boy, I am so excited about this. Someone's going to pay me $500 to speak to them. And under her breath, she said, well, I would pay you $500 not to speak. So, I used to say that a lot, and she'd ask me never to share that story again, but I couldn't help myself based on the fact of you mentioning that. So that's fun. All right. So Miriam, what advice would you give to an agent? Because look, here's what's crazy. There are agents in today's marketplace, with as hot and white hot as it is, that are really still struggling. Yesterday, I was actually sitting with Mackenzie, and I was sitting with a potential agent to join her, and they said, I'm really, really struggling in this business today. Well, this market has got me freaked out. So what advice would you give to an agent? And this is an agent that's had their license for a long time. So what advice would you give to an experienced agent today? And what advice would you even give to the newer agent?
I think one of the main things that really helped me really take it to a new level was really a lot of the Rick and Ruby's role play. It helped a ton. And I don't think that agents, not everybody has that every single morning access to it. It's not like you have to schedule it and then you think, oh, I got to do it then, or it was incredible for him. Like Rick, hi Rick, I love you. Thank you. he would tell you, like, your body language matters, your intensity, your caring. There's so many things that, like, if you get in an appointment. And so when I went to my appointments last year, or even now, I get nearly every one. And it's because of that training that you have. And I think one thing that I think a lot of agents forget is that it isn't that they don't want to maybe sign the listing agreement or buy a broker, whatever. This is life changing. What you're doing is life changing. They're moving their home. They're moving their family. They're scared. They're moving their kids out of their schools. They're changing their life completely. It isn't about you. You are asking them to make a major life choice. And so that's what I think we don't understand as agents, is you're just trying to get that sale, right?
Right,
but
right.
If you understand and then talk to them about that and realize what's holding them back, what's keeping them from doing that. That's one thing that, like, the role play helps with, is trying to get to what's the real reason they're not acting and how can you help them. And even if you don't help them have a great day. That's what I love. I remember you saying that a lot of times, George. Even if you didn't get the listing, you make them have a better day because they came in contact with you.
Yeah, leave them inspired because you were there. Leave them inspired to have a better day, a better life, because you showed them their life.
Leave them better because you met with them. Make them happier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other thing is that really helped me a ton was Kenzie helped me get an assistant, and that was huge because I hate all the numbers. I hate all the paperwork. I'd rather just go meet with the people, and then, like, I just fly the paperwork to her. Here's an offer. Here's this, and then I want to go meet with more people. And people have said that, and I've never really known how that could happen. And that can never happen unless you have a team like what we have set up. That would never happen to me at Equity.
So thank you. So love that. So with this is the one thing that since the moment that you started speaking this morning, that I think is really, really, really cool. I mean, let me just give you a perspective. Like, when you were at Equity, how much money were you earning at your former other company? What was kind of your top? What was the top mark that you had?
Oh, I think I made about 180.
Okay. And then and so far at Everest, what's kind of been your top? What's been one of your best years at Everest so far? I guess it was just last year.
So yeah, I had 32 deals. I was a centurion. I really can't remember now. It's 300.
It's all good. This is my point. This is what I love. So you said 180. My point. I hope everyone's listening. Look, there's over 50 different people listening to this today. And what I hope that people get is this one statement. And that is that you have remained teachable and coachable. And my observation is that when someone starts to make 50, 60, 80, 100 plus $1,000 a year, it's as if they have figured it all out. They stop training, they stop their mindset stuff, they stop practicing, they stop role playing, they stop all the things that got them to this point. And so the one thing I have really appreciated so far this morning with you, Miriam, is this energy, this spirit of teachability, coachability. I mean, you've said, gosh, I got this from Ruby. I heard this from Rick. I've spent time and Kenzie helped me with this, and George, you helped me with that. And that may seem like such, oh, well, those are just simple statements, but what they really are is an indicator to me that you have a dedication to remaining teachable and coachable. And the thing that is, when we become so rigid and we become so tough with the way in which we think something's supposed to be done, it's that statement of I've made for years, and that is just trust a few people around you. Because if you can trust a few people around you, you can trust the process that you're about. It's crazy how much success that you can have. And so I have always said, look, you never arrive. You never have like, I have arrived, I am there. And the thing that I think is really interesting is that I believe that if you're making 300 grand, 400 grand, 500 grand, I don't believe you're going to be someone who's going to say, oh, I've arrived, I've got it all figured out. And then you stop the very things that got you there.
No.
And that's that question, right? That I asked, right? What got you to this point? And you've shared so many things. And part of that is that you've remained teachable. So I hope that this group really gets the fact that if you want to really take your life, your business, your future to the next level in life, then you've got to remain teachable. You've got to remain coachable. So go ahead, Miriam.
One of the things that I think too is you have to make a change, and it's scary. And it was scary when I met with Kenzie. We met several times. She was persistent, and it was great. And then Alicia Madsen has been awesome too. She's always been your biggest fan and told me to come over to Century 21, and it's been a great decision. But I think you always have to do better. You know, I'll close a deal and think, what could I have done better with that?
Great statement.
What's that?
It's a great statement. Sorry, the Zoom. I'm just talking to you. I just said great statement. Keep going.
Thanks. So I always think, if I'd have done this, would this have happened? Or it's good I did this. And so I always want to review each one of them. And then like stay in contact with them. You know, that's the main thing too, is one other thing, Brenda Lee, she's just down the hall from me. And I loved her one statement. She said, I call them as if they're my friend on the phone, because most people need help with real estate, right? Everybody does. And so you call them, how can you help? And it's not that you're making cold calls, you're making a friend call.
Love it.
I was like, amen. I mean, you know, that's what we're here to help.
It's to your point. It's the two questions that seem to be most relevant right now are, how are you doing? How can I help you? And it may seem like such a simple process. And I've always loved, guys, my opening line to Calling My Sphere is always this. Hey, Bob, it's George Morris with Century 21. Hey, I'm excited to visit with you for a few minutes. I'm calling you about real estate, but before I do, how are you doing?
Right.
And sincerely asking how they're doing. Some people say, oh, well, the efficiencies of that. Good gravy, the efficiencies. There is no efficiencies with people. You're not building a manufacturing plant. There's nothing efficient. I mean, good heavens, we don't walk till we're 1 to 2 years old. We can't feed ourselves until we're 2 or 3 years old. We can't take care of ourselves, sometimes even into our 20s and 30s. We can't even take care of ourselves. And we're starting to say we want to have efficiencies with people. There is no efficiencies with people. And the moment you think that there's efficiencies with people, you're going to lose out on hundreds, if not thousands of opportunities that you could have in your career if you'll just slow down, listen, sincerely ask, how can I help? And what is it that I can do to help you? And my favorite question in real estate is, how are you using real estate to build your future? How are you using real estate to build your future? Because so many people are not and should be. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about that.
It's crazy they wouldn't.
Yeah, let's talk about that sphere. You said a lot of your business right now is coming from your sphere. So let's talk about two things with the time that we have left. One, I want to talk about sphere, and specifically in a moment, we'll talk about listings. For you with your sphere, what advice would you give? We've just obviously mentioned a little bit of the conversation, but get really specific about what you're doing with your sphere, how you're building your sphere, how you're communicating with your sphere, the activities that you're actually doing on a whether it be a weekly or quarterly or annual basis? What are you doing?
So I use that Zap a lot because
Okay.
I'm like sort of not super bold to go out and the Zap, when I do a home search on there, I can see who's actively looking.
Okay.
And
So
it
you've put, so let's make sure we're clear.
call
Everyone
them.
there's,
Mhm.
let me just say, Mary. So you've put all of your leads, or sorry, all of your sphere of influence into Zap, or basically, and in fairness,
All of them.
it could be that one, it could be another CRM, but basically a CRM that communicates back to you that says, hey, these guys and gals are starting to look at property. There's activity. They opened my email, or they looked at a property, and you're able to see that immediately and knowing that, man, that's the people I need to make sure I'm in contact with.
That's exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Just making sure people understand
It's
that.
very important that you don't just enter them into Zap, but you also set them up on a home search. Because if you do the home search, then that, and then whatever property you've sold them, that will alert everyone, or if there's a new listing that went up around them, then they see it, but they see your name. And so that's why Zap's so important to use, is because it will do that home search. You can do other CRMs or whatever you're saying,
Right.
but use Zap because you can do the home search there. And so like I just went out to a listing.
And just Miriam, let me just say, so if you want to know more about Zap or to be able to integrate some of these things, then they would get with Russ Orchard.
Right. Talk to Russ. He's awesome.
Okay. Just want to make sure people here.
And Russ, I put a ton in there.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay. Keep going. You said you went out to a client.
I went out to a client and I called and talked to her, but I knew she was active. She was active on my Zap. I knew she was active. I know other ones are active. So then that's who I call. I call the top of my Zap list. So I know who's engaged. And so with the home search, they're looking, hey, what's my house worth? Oh, this one just listed. If they're really not interested, they're not going to look. But that's what's so cool about Zap is it shows you at the top. And Russ said a cool thing too. He's like, it doesn't have to be somebody you sold a house to. It can be anybody. And then
any lead,
put your name out there.
Right. Okay. What else do you do? What else do you do to enhance and to elevate, empower your sphere, this great asset that you continue to build as the months and years go on?
I call and check on them. I'll check on my ones that have just sold.
Okay. So give us a perspective of what those calls, not necessarily the detail of we've talked a little bit about what those calls look like, but more so give us kind of the time frames. Are you trying to call them once a month, once a quarter, once a year? What's your mindset in regards to the way in which you're doing that? And I get it, right? There's two things. One, you may know what you're supposed to be doing. You may not be doing all of it. And then there's the other angle of what you really are doing right now that is also proving to work, which is exciting, which makes you want to do even more of the things that you know work. But what would you say is the best path that you're doing with your sphere in regards to the call?
So it's kind of natural. Like you've created this relationship with them. You just moved them into your house. They've had this life-changing event. And then all of a sudden you close and it's over. Right. And so I'll like call them, hey, do you miss me? We don't text anymore. and they'll be like, we do, come over to the house, come see what we did. And so I went up to this last one. It was like up in Harriman. I couldn't believe the great job that they'd done. And I walked through it with them. They said, come up and see. And like my husband had let them use a couple tools. And I went in there and I've had 4 referrals off of that. Just their friends and family. And it was like, that's just one. So, and I just follow up with them and keep in contact with them. And then it kind of gradually like dies off, right? If you haven't bought one with them for a while.
Right.
So then I'll call them randomly, just to check in on them. You have a reason to call them. You can call them and say, hey, did the schools turn out? Or I'll call them and say, that trail in the backyard, have you loved that? I know that was really important to you. Or there's reasons you can call them, and then just say,
so let's make sure. I wanted to clarify that. So I apologize I just want to make sure we don't run out of time because we got 6 minutes.
Oh,
no, sorry. No, this is great stuff. This is awesome. So just what I'm hearing is bring value to the conversation,
Mhm.
right? Bring value and be authentic, be real, but bring value. So it's not always, hey, who do you know? It's about bringing value of the market, or, hey, maybe reminding them of the reasons why they bought what they bought, but having a real conversation, to your point of what Brenda Lee Jones said, which is, hey, they're my friend and I want to help them.
Mhm.
So number one, you're calling them, or number two, well, number one, you're putting them in a CRM, putting them
Mhm.
on drip campaigns, putting them on, so I presume obviously there's emails that are going out. You're calling them, and what I would encourage an agent to do is calling them on a quarterly basis.
Mhm.
What else are you doing? And if there is anything else, I want to suggest just a few more things, not only for you but for this group in regards to working with their sphere.
I'll kind of review when I talk to them. You initially talk about the house and how great it is, and then just I kind of review the sale or the purchase,
Okay.
how what a great deal it was, and how they made this and this, and the value of being in that area now. So I
Okay.
always bring that back. Like you can make your genuine call, but then I always try to go back to the number of why that was such a great deal, and then that reaffirms to them that was a really good deal, and then I'm like, it's a great time to sell or buy. Do you have any other friends that might be interested? Because don't you see this was great, and they're like, yeah, and then they'll get a referral.
Okay. Okay. I love it. So let's just go to, so you're using your CRM, you're using Zap specifically, making sure that as they're getting home searches, whether it be for their own home or other searches that they do, your name's coming up, that's identified. Number two, you're making calls, making sure they're quality calls, meaningful calls. Then I would just add these things, guys. Make sure that we're consistently texting, consistently social media, consistent with even mailings,
Yeah, I do.
consistent with all of these things. Because look, the asset of your sphere is so powerful. Now, look, let's just switch gears here just very quickly. So, look, in today's marketplace, a decent price listing or in certain price range it's crazy the amount of offers that are coming in on particular listings. So my question for you is, one, what are you doing to go take more listings? How are you approaching the business in regards to listings today?
Oh, listings is huge if you can do the listings.
Okay. Are you focused specifically on taking listings? And it's okay if you're not. I'm just curious, like, what's your mindset right now in regards to the listing process?
So our listings, so I don't know if you're familiar, but I'm working with a builder. We just opened a new build
Oh no, I'm not familiar with that. That's great.
yeah, so it's a 26 lot subdivision. Alicia and I opened that up end of February, which is great. We have all but five. We have five more lots that are
Okay.
available. So that those, as far as listings, has kept us pretty busy with that new build with the
Okay.
builder.
Okay.
And that's just generated things off that because some come in and they need to then buy and then list their
Right.
house.
Be stumped. Okay.
Mhm.
What
And
how have you found from the standpoint of putting a buyer under contract? How have you worked that today with so
uh,
many offers in on a
so
property?
hard.
How are you working that?
It's so hard.
I like the honesty. Okay.
It
Okay.
really is. And you just have to, I try to just prep my buyers and say, look, this is what's happening. And
Okay. So you're
so
future pacing your buyer.
this is how we have to react. And at first, I love it when they'll believe me, but sometimes at first we'll have to put a few in and then they are like, yeah, you're right. What should we do now? And
Right.
so I try to prep them, and then you just have to be super aggressive. And it's scary contracts because non-refundable money, or if you're
Right.
paying of appraisal, it's scary to write stuff like that. But I don't know how you get it done.
Okay.
That,
Well, if you don't, right, in today's marketplace, especially with so many cash buyers out there and everything else that's going on.
and
So
as
you're
an agent, you've got to get it done for them. And even though they're paying, I tell them, even though you're paying a little bit less, if I can get you in a great area that's going to appreciate, this won't matter in the long run.
yeah,
We need
great.
to get you into a home and get you going.
Love it. So let me ask you, so let's wrap up here. What's your final thoughts, your final counsel? What encouragement would you give to this motley crew that's listening to you and listening to every word you have to say? What would you tell them? What would you encourage them to do?
I think to be real with people and don't look at it as a sales job, but that you're helping them through a life-changing event.
Great.
And also to bring value to sales. Like that's what I learned the hard way through our own properties, is that they will net more in the end going with an experienced agent, with the advertising that Century 21 has, with the tools that you have, will really net them truly more money. And so to be genuine, but to show your value to them, and realize that this is the most important decision they'll make, and it's a huge financial decision, and it's life changing. And don't ever discount that. Don't ever think it's just one more listing or one more buyer. This is a person's life. You're
Well, and to your point, right, when you all of a sudden an agent starts dealing with it themselves, right? They sell their own home or they're buying their own home. It's a great reminder of, wait a second here, this is scary at times. This is stressful at times, lots of unknowns at time. And to your point, the patience, the value, the authenticity, being real, being honest, dripping with integrity, doing the right thing at all times. Guys, just such wise counsel, Miriam. And thank you for, one, being within the organization, and two, being a shining example of what it means to be a success. And, look, success is so has so much of a variable to it. And what I mean by that is that to each person, success is very unique and very, very, very different. And one of the things I can see is that you're having tremendous success in regards to the amount of business you're doing and the way in which you're operating your business and the way in which you're moving your life. So congratulations to you. And congratulations to everybody who's listening, because look, there were so many takeaways from the things that you said. I hope that people heard them, and I hope that they'll take them to heart, and I hope that their business will be improved because of it. So thank you, Miriam.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, let's finish up with some affirmations. Again, thank you, Miriam, and let's rock and roll. Here we go, guys. Get those thrown up here before we start.